Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is May 11th. We are almost halfway through the year. How crazy is that? We are so excited for this community call today. The agenda, we're going to talk about the latest updates on community, a number of initiatives. We're going to take a look at a number of our samples. So much incredible work by everyone in the community doing amazing samples. And then, of course, our together mode time. Everybody loves to show their fantastic faces. And we are going to have three amazing presenters today. Matt is going to talk about what 3 words, the Power Platform Custom Connector. That's going to be a fun one. Abdul is going to cover how to automate the process to convert the rows of Excel sheets into the rows of Dataverse. So it's like a transformation. Awesome. And then Todd, is going to cover validating PowerShell parameters with SharePoint information. So we cannot wait to see what's in store for us. But first, let's talk about some resources. You want to take advantage of all these tools and resources that are available to you because it is going to make your life easier. Together we are stronger, and with all these resources, you can be stronger too. There's a number of videos. There's a LinkedIn discussion group. We've got all these open source tools for you to take advantage of. And we also have those galleries. We're going to see all those samples that are available to you. And then we are also able to give you a one-stop shop. You don't got to remember all these URLs. Nope. Just got to remember one. Go to aka.ms/community/home and you'll get access to all of our community resources that are available. Now, let's talk about community calls. You're here because you like them. So we have more for you. The Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Weekly with Microsoft speakers is one of the more important calls that you definitely want to get on your calendar because you are going to get it straight from the horse's mouth. All these are only Microsoft presenters so that you'll hear directly from those program managers, the product managers. Then, of course, we've got our monthly Power Platform call. That happens next week. We've got some wonderful presenters in store. The Identity Platform, Office add-ins, and then, of course, our bi-weekly M365 and Power Platform community call, which you are on right now. And next week will be the VP Connection SharePoint Framework. You can get access to all these calls at ak.ms/community/calls. Get them on your calendar. You can download them. You can watch the previous ones if you missed them. They are worth the investment, I promise. Now, if you want to present on one of these calls, you are absolutely welcome to do that. You are the stars of our call. So we want to welcome anyone and everyone to present. Don't overthink it. It could be a practice that you like to utilize with the technology. It can be a new feature, functionality, anything, a sample, a demo. We absolutely welcome everyone. Just fill out the form, aka.ms/community/request/demo, rolls right off the tongue, or you can click the link, whatever's easier, and fill it out. We'll get back to you. We'll schedule you in, and we'd love to welcome you. And, of course, if you want to buddy up, we can do that too. If it's your first time, you've never presented, we could provide you a buddy, and we'll work together on it. Now, speaking of that Microsoft speakers call, next week on the 16th of May on Tuesday, we're going to have 3 topics: building a Microsoft Teams call queue scheduler solution for customers, introduction to LiveShare SDK for Microsoft Teams apps, and the one and only Vesa Juvonen is going to be talking about latest on building Microsoft Viva extensibility with SPFX. So we know that's been a series, and we're excited to see more about that. Now, if you're thinking, woo, yeah, of course, the crowd goes wild, woo, yeah, awesome. If you are wanting to get more involved in the community, but you're not sure where to start, Hugo Bernier has something for you.
Well, thank you, David. So we know that GitHub can be scary, right? We keep on saying, hey, submit some samples and talk on the community calls and things like that. But we realize that it can be scary. What if you submit a pull request that destroys the entire repository? I know that was one of my concerns when I first submitted my first pull request. Don't worry. Sharing is Caring is there to help you take your first step without making it scary. It's going to be hands-on. It's going to be a safe place. It's not going to be recorded. And we're going to do these things together. So we're going to help you do your first pull request. We're going to help you do your first sample. We're going to help you set up your workstation and get started presenting and do all these cool things. All you need to do is to go to ak.ms/sharingiscaring to look for upcoming dates and sign up, and we'll see you there. And you have, go ahead.
Yep, sorry. I just forgot to mention we are looking for volunteers. We know a number have submitted interest, and we are back from M365 Conference and Summit. So be on the lookout for all those. And if you have not reached out, let us know too. We can add more to it. Sorry, back to you, Hugo.
I don't know if I want to do it anymore. All right. And once you've done that, we will recognize your contributions in the community with our community recognition program. This is where you have an opportunity to actually register yourself and your GitHub account. And when you do a contribution that is recognized, whether it's submitting a sample or presenting on community calls, we will issue you a badge. And the badges are coming from Credly, the same organization that does the Microsoft certifications. So you can put it on LinkedIn and you can show people that you know your stuff. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is to register your account at aka.nms/community/recognition. And with that, I'll pass it back to David.
Awesome. Thank you, Hugo. Let's get into some project-specific updates. So we're going to start with Bert.
Thank you, David. On the .NET side, things have been a bit quiet the last weeks. So PnP framework, I think the main thing there is Paul Bullock still working on documentation. So if folks wanting to help, reach out to Paul to get some things to work on. On the cross-decay side, we had a couple of fixes. I think the most important one is when you do like a filter on datetime offset fields that wasn't correctly handled. Now that's fixed, so you can do that. And there's some other smaller fixes around content types that we introduced, but nothing major there. So pretty stable, which is good. I think that sums it up. Let's move to PowerShell then. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Bert. Gautam?
Thank you, David. So for the first time, people who are joining the call, very much welcome. Love to have you here. About PnP PowerShell, yep, it is a cross-platform PowerShell module that you can use to interact with various Microsoft 365 services. The latest version that is out right now is v2.1.1, and it is supported only on PowerShell 7.2 or later versions of PowerShell. So what we did in the past 2 weeks, we added a couple of parameters related to this newer syntax-related policies like block download policy, exclude download policy, site owners, and exclude block download group ID to the set PnP tenant site and set PnP site commandlets. We also fixed a minor regression in the get PnP Azure AD group, which will now retrieve more than 100 results if there are available. And there was also a smaller regression in the get PnP access token as well. So it will now work with SharePoint. It will now be able to fetch SharePoint or custom resource tokens as well. We also added archive redirect URL to the set PnP tenant commandlet. So you can specify custom redirect page to be displayed for an archived site. And yep, that's pretty much from my side. But if you have any ideas or options that you would want to see in PnP PowerShell, do get in touch with us on GitHub, on the discussion forums, as well as on the issue list. Yep, that's all from my end. Over to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Gautam. Let's move over to Yo Teams. I will give an update. New release, Generator Teams 4.1.0. We've got a Yo Teams build core 1.81.preview and Yo Teams deploy 1.4.0 preview. Added support for Teams manifest versions 1.1.4 and 1.1.5. So give it a try. You can do that using that npm. What's next? Preparing for 4.2. So there's fixed some invalid HTML and generated tabs and docs. Looking for some help. Definitely go in, check out the ak.ms/yoteams, and you can find those good first issues and help wanted. The team is wonderful at collaborating, so don't hesitate to reach out and get more involved. All right, let's move over to Microsoft Teams Toolkit with John.
Thanks, David. RC of the 5.0 release that I've been talking about for a long time is available now. The current plan is to release next week. So don't quote me on that, but that's our plan. So the RC is available. That just some highlights on that if you haven't been following along. Dev tunnels, you can use dev tunnels now. That's integrated. So that makes debugging a little simpler and easier. Also makes debugging on mobile a little easier. You can use existing resources much simpler. So we've just simplified a ton of stuff. Just got rid of all the weird toolkit stuff that everyone was complaining about and hopefully made it much simpler. So please try it. Give me feedback. We'd love to hear it. You can also customize and the automation that it's doing. So that is directly addressing the feedback we've got. And we've made some changes in this RC of the scaffolding option. So we tried to reduce all the weird terminology that we've introduced that people were confused about and just went with the platform stuff. So you'll see things like tabs and bots and we'll go from there. So hopefully things are a little easier when you get started. So yeah, if you have any feedback, you can use the link down there, TTK chat, that will let you schedule time with me. And we also have a hackathon coming up in June, so right after the Build conference. We have a bunch of awesome folks putting together a 2-week hackathon that's focused on teams, and that's what that link is there, Hack Together Teams. So you can check out the announcement that was announced yesterday. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Let's move over to Microsoft Graph Toolkit. All right. So just shipped v.2.10.1 is the latest stable release. So update your packages at ak.ms/mgt/2.10.1. Updates to the MGT people picker and MGT tasks. Just shipped also 3.0 preview. So definitely check that out. Again, if you've never used MGT, or otherwise known as Microsoft Graph Toolkit, it is super easy. There is a bunch of little simple to deploy tags that you can integrate with Graph, and it will give you all the access in the UI that makes it look like you did all kinds of work. Tell your boss that you spent hours and hours and take a extended lunch. But definitely check it out. Seb and Gavin are doing a great job. You can definitely utilize and reach out if you'd like to help as well. Again, they've got good first issues and help wanted. So definitely check that out at ak.ms/mgt/issues. Next up is script samples. Paul is not here today, so I'll cover this. There's a number of updated scenarios. 188 total scenarios, 261 scripts. He has mentioned that the contributions are going crazy. So thank you, everyone. And by the way, this is one of the easiest ways to contribute to the community. Paul is a fantastic repo owner. Let him know you're interested if you have any questions. We all have those utility samples that are super great to use. And you may think, everybody knows how to do this. Not always. So reach out if you have any you want to share. Tons of opportunity. There's lots of collaborative ways for you to get involved. Next up is Microsoft Teams samples with Bob German.
Hi, everyone. We have a great new sample this week from Marcus Moeller. And this one actually allows you to share documents from a SharePoint document library directly into Teams. So it kind of cuts the amount of cognitive overhead for users who want to share a document. They can just do it from right in the Compose box. It is written in C# and Blazor using Teams Toolkit. And so it's a great example of that. How to build a search message extension with a configuration page. Not everybody knows you can configure those things. Demonstrates Azure AD single sign-in and puts the secrets where secrets should go in Azure Key Vault. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay, so there's the URL, and thank you again, Marcus. And please submit your Teams samples to aka.ms/teams-samples. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Marcus, as well. Always doing great work. Last but not least, we've got Power Platform samples. Hugo Bernier.
Well, thank you, David. We have a repository for Power Platform samples. So we have Power Apps, templates, components, connectors, Power Effects, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Virtual Agent, and coming soon, Power Pages. We all love Power Pages. And we welcome your samples. All you need to do is to go to aka.ms/powerplatform-samples. And we are currently in the process of combining many of these repositories into a single repository. So please be patient with us as we process your submissions. But please send us your submissions. We love samples. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you. And reach out if you have any questions. There is some changes we're making there, as Hugo said. So we know it might be a little confusing. GitHub is kind of cray that way. So let us know. All right. What time is it? Picture time. So Vesa is going to take on over. Turn on your cameras if you'd like.
Yep. And I will flip us to get mode. And let's actually change the scene. I want to have the forest within us. Forest scene is good. So let's see that. And we do have 50 seats in a room. Oh, there we go. Now it's starting to look better.
Are you sharing?
I think I'm sharing. Right? People think what I'm sharing?
No, but you can. We'll see it later on social media.
What? Stop sharing. Share. 1 second. 1 second. I will try this one more time.
I think we're cooking with gas now.
Yeah, right. We're in the forest.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. And then let me actually start recording. We're not recording it. Wait. We have 50 seats. Let's try to fill in this room. Wait. Not yet. I think we are hitting the limit. And I will put the recording on. And let's actually do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining. And here we go. and some hand waving. Thank you, everybody, for joining. A really big hand on the left side of the screen. I can see that. I can see Hugo on the front row. A lot of familiar faces. A lot of weird stuff happening in the screen. Excellent. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Really, really cool. Let's get back on the slides and the demos. And Bob, I have no idea what you're doing on the back row, but that was good.
Neither do I.
All right. Excellent. All right. Y'all can, best you can see my screen again. Okay. All right. Excellent. So it is time for our all-star presenters of the day. We're going to start with Matt, who is going to cover the What 3 Words Power Platform Custom Connector. Matt, take it on over.
Thank you very much. I'm in an office of real people today with people around me, and I'm on one screen instead of my 3 at home. So what could possibly go wrong in today's demo? So you'll have to bear with me, and I'm sure we will get there. So the first thing I want to do is thank David and Hugo and the rest of the team for putting this stuff on. This stuff is amazing. It takes so much time, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Now, I'm not going to lie, my title is slightly misleading. I'm going to use the most of my time to give you some extra tips as well as to swap 3 words. I figured it's not often you get 100 people plus to come and listen to what you're doing, and there's some tips that I like to have and share around. So I'm taking the chance to commandeer the entire call and offer some other things that I found useful over time as well. So some of this, about 3/4, this will be what 3 words. A little introduction into me and who I am. So my name is Matt Beard. I am the development team leader at a UK company called Data8, who specialise in data quality. I am usually on the other side of the screen on these things. I'm an organiser, so I organise the Scottish Summit, which is one of the largest UK ones. It's actually in Manchester this year, but that's a long conversation for a different time. I organise user groups around the country as well as curate the PP Dev Weekly, which is a curated version of all development articles that go out across the week. So if you want to subscribe to a useful stack list every week you get, then that's absolutely worth doing to that. A few other things. So I'm a certified connector author and an independent connector author. They are 2 slightly different things that I will mention during this call. And I support Liverpool and football. And if anybody is watching Welcome to Wrexham and follows Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, then yes, I live about 5 minutes away from the Wrexham ground. So you've probably seen my house on Welcome to Wrexham in the drone shots in the sky. If you don't know what Welcome to Wrexham is, then ignore that comment. So today's agenda, intro to What 3 Words, as well as the app that I've built, some independent versus certified comments and things to do, and then a couple of GitHub tips that someone told me once that really resonated with me and helped me try and be where I'm at today and help me get that little bit edge on other people in the community to try and help other people. So let's start with What 3 Words. So what 3 words? What is What 3 Words and what's it designed to do? So I don't know if anybody's heard of What 3 Words before. So let's go on a scenario. Let's go on a nice woodland walk, and we walk for miles and miles and miles, and something happens, and then you are stranded in the middle of nowhere, and for some reason you need some sort of support or something like that. So you pull out your phone and you make a phone call and help. I'm lost with nothing around, and everybody's usual idea is I've got a GPS, I've got a phone, I can maybe able to work out my GPS with Google Maps, but then I need to tell that person where I am, and I would like some sort of assistance. So you read out you're that long. 53.2644036 and minus 2.8770825. At which point the person goes, I need to get a pen, and whatever was happening slows down slightly. And if this is an emergency, then time is of the essence. So everyone gets confused with their brains. They don't know what's going on, and the numbers are important. So this is a useful thing that I found out recently, and I think it's very useful to know. So the 7th decimal place of a latitude and longitude, if you increase that by 1, you move in the world by 1.11 centimeters, which shows how accurate that long can be, and how much leverage you've got, how much difference you've got should you get a number wrong. However, that scales up as you go to the left on the number. So if you get the number for the decimal place, 1 number wrong, you are 111 kilometers in the wrong place. So when you are typing these numbers out, it is super important you get them right, because the more wrong you get it, then you could end up in the middle of nowhere. So this is where What 3 Words comes in. And What 3 Words breaks the entire globe down into 3 meter by 3 meter squares and gives each one of those squares a unique name with 3 words. 3, at this point, English words. I think there is translations, but for the purpose of this demo, I've got it all in English. And every single one is unique. So you can have all sorts of things available with that. So if you had the phone call and you now said, I'm at Extra Pipes Baggage, that is significantly easy to tell you where I am. And you've now got me pinpointed down to a 3 meter square. And I can safely stay there, and you will find me where I'm at. So some useful use cases for this, because obviously people always go, I've got my phone, I can share my location. And that's a fair comment. However, there is some more use cases on this. So the Mongolian Postal Service use this to deliver their mail because their addressing system is poor. Mercedes-Benz have it in their cars now. A lot of that is used for things like deliveries. So you might want it at your back gate, or you might want it down the road, or you might want it, I don't know, if you live on a farm, you want it in your outhouse. The what through words on that will help you get to very specific places very quickly. Domino's Pizza across Europe use it. And festivals, I think, is a really good use case for it. So Glastonbury in the UK and the Electric Daisy Festival in the US are two examples that I found. And it might even be something as simple as the restrooms are at XYZ. And you now know where that's going, because otherwise you go, it's across that field, you walk for a little bit, you turn left after a little bit, you go into that field. So actually having these pinpointed locations of the words is super useful. So what have I got? I've got a bit of a demo here. So the first thing I'll do is refresh this, because this never works first time after a reload. And all this is doing is a fairly crude demo. And one thing to note here, and this is one of the tips that I've always got that some people don't know, and I certainly didn't know this for years, was that actually, even though the Power Automate connector is in this app, I don't ever call Power Automate at all. So version 1 of this passed it out to Flow. It did its thing, and then the Flow passed it back in again and did its own thing in here. What I recently learned when I was doing all this sort of stuff is when you've now got the idea of data sets, you can actually just add the data source in itself. And even though there's no data behind this connection, I can use it. And the way I always likened it to is I grew up from an Excel background, and I had all sort of custom functions that I could write in there. And it basically gives me that functionality. So what I've got here when I play my app is I've got the lat long and I've got some throw through words, and I can translate between the two of them. So that's where I am right now. If I move 111 kilometers away, as we now know what that's doing, I've gone 111 kilometers in one direction, and I'm now at fallen timed bulldozer. And I can just keep moving around the world, and I can go and see where I'm going, and I can go to everywhere else. Now, all this data that's driven from this is all coming from the What Through Words API. So the nearest place, that's coming from the What Through Words API. And all I'm doing in these different things is a bunch of power effects, and ultimately I'm converting the lat long to What Through Words, and I'm doing some stuff with the power effects to place it back into the results, and the other way around. It's super simple, and it's a nice little demo, but it shows the power of What Through Words, how you can quickly translate between these two different things. Now, the one extra thing that I did with this, and I think this is another useful workaround, and I think this is a good example for the PnP GitHub actually, is dealing with autocomplete. So if you're anything like me and a bit childish, what happens is when you can write 3 words, you write out 3 funny words until you find a place, and then you find funny patterns in those things. So what I introduced was this idea of an autocomplete. So as I type now, I'm recalculating that on the fly all the time. Now, I've got some sliders there that are doing some strange things. So winter, winter, winter. So I'm sorry to anybody that lives in Chicago, Illinois, but you are winter, winter, winter. So I'm guessing that's the What Through Words sort of way of saying it's cold over there. So winter, winter, winter is one of the ones that I found. Now, the reason I've got these sliders here is a useful little demo. So the on change of text boxes only fires when it loses its focus, which is not useful in an autocomplete world, because I want it nice and responsive. I want it as I'm typing the letter. But the on change of the value of a slider changing is every time the value changes. So I have a slider here, and all that slider is doing is that is showing its value as the length of my inputs. So every time I input change, my slider value changes, which then fires my own change. I could then hide this from my view so it's not there. And I've recreated this autocomplete behavior with a slider connected to a text box, which seems unusual, and you don't know why you would normally do that, but I think that is a really useful thing, and I've got it on a beta thing while I'm trying to test it. So it's just a useful thing if you're trying to get any sort of autocomplete type text. The other thing I found, so if you're ever wondering where the most expensive place in the world is, so you got this fight to beta test, it'll fail at times. The most expensive place in the world to live, your credit card is denied, then it's in Ontario, Canada. So there you go. So there's another ways of finding What Through Words. Now, just to jump back into my slides, which are there. A few other comments that I've got while I've got you here, just to make the most of my time, and I don't often get the opportunity to speak to this many people. Some little tips between independent and certified connectors, because they're in the Power Automate ecosystem. And actually, having been through both situations, if you own the API, the situation is super, super similar. A certified connector built as a custom connector is shared on GitHub as open source. It can be a preview or GA after it's been run for a while. You can attach C# code. And those four things are the same. Every process for an independent connector is exactly the same. So even the larger companies that use and have their connectors out there, they are done in the exact same way that we as community people develop them and put them out there. The only difference is they own their respective APIs behind the scenes, and they get a little bit more analytics behind the scenes in the ISV studio. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's useful to see, but that's great about it. And to prove that, there is my certified connector and my independent connector within GitHub, that they are exactly the same structure, exactly the same. There is no difference in them. And I just think that's a useful thing to know, that the premium stuff and the certified stuff isn't using anything different than we as the community are using. I think that's actually a very, very powerful message. There's the one difference. So on the left hand side is me getting some success rates based on my my certified connector, and then on the right hand side I get manual emails every week to tell me how my independent connector is doing, and that's the only real difference in the whole situation. And I just find that personally amazing. And then the final thing I'm going to close with, because I think this is another useful thing that I think is people don't realize, is subscribing on GitHub. Now, I like to be ahead of the game. I like to know what's coming. I like to be on the cutting edge of technologies. I was one of the first to have a certified connector. I was the second person ever to get a PCF component in a solution approved into AppSource. So I really try and like to be at the cutting edge of these technologies. And the way I do that is I subscribe in GitHub, because everything is open source nowadays. So you can see these things. So what you can see here, for example, is these were commits made to in public to the Power Automate connector. So you can see what's coming. This hasn't rolled out around the world yet. This is being rolled out around the world, but you can see it's on its way. So you might only be a week ahead of the game. But for me, it's always been a huge benefit to know what's coming, keep ahead of it, and look for the things that I care about. And remember, as we've seen in this already, connectors aren't the only thing on GitHub. So everything that we've spoken about today so far is on GitHub. So it might be PowerFX. There was PowerFX functions that were released on, if you look into the commits, months before they were announced. And it's just useful to keep ahead of the game. So that's my one little tip, and that's something that really helped propel me to try and be at the cutting edge of the technology that I use. Although the biggest tip I'll give for you is, if you're to do that, is make sure you have Outlook rules, because they will fill your inbox up pretty quickly if you're subscribing to everything. So yeah, there's also things, Dataverse Service Client, PowerFX, VS Code. It's all open source, as well as all the PnP or the community source stuff. So have a look at the Microsoft repositories, have a look at what you think you might care about, and set up those subscriptions is my genuine top tip on how to be ahead of the game. There you go. There's the PowerFX proof that there was things coming out. So there was some ISMatch stuff that was implemented for a couple of days ago. So you might see those functionalities changing over time, and you can see that publicly. Some useful links, and there's too many for now. So I will be shared after this by David. They might be appearing in the chat already, and if not, they'll be on the videos after this if you've got anything to care about, or reach out to me and I'm happy to talk about any of this stuff at any time. And ultimately, that's it. That's me done. I'm happy to pass over to David or whoever's next.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you. Perfect timing there too. I tell you, that was impressive, and great tips there. Everyone, really, the subscribing on GitHub is fantastic. Also, because any repo and documentation for Microsoft is done in GitHub, so it really allows you to be able to follow some of those documentation updates. And the independent publisher connectors, you can create one in less than 5 minutes. In all actuality, we showed that at the M365 conference. So definitely get involved. It's one of the nicer and more fun ways to get your actual work into the product, which is pretty awesome. So thanks, Matt. Well done. All right. Next up is Abdul. He's going to cover how to automate the process to convert the rows of Excel sheets into the rows of Dataverse. Abdul, take it away. And everyone, this is Abdul's first presentation on the call, so let's show him some love.
Thank you all for giving me this opportunity. I'm going to share my screen. So I think you can see my screen.
Yep, perfect.
So I'm starting from a little bit of my introduction. I have 7+ years of experience in Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Power Platform. And I'm working in different roles with different organizations, and I'm actively participating in different Microsoft communities. For any queries, you can reach out to me through this email address. So this is my topic: how to automate the process of converting the rows of Excel sheets into the rows of Dataverse using Power Platform. So these are the prerequisites which we write in this automation. So Excel sheet, OneDrive. So these both components we have through this personal account, and then the fourth one is the Power Apps, and we have this through the account provided by our IT department. So let's jump to the demo. So this is my Excel sheet, and I'm going to upload this to this OneDrive in this document folder, and it will convert to these rows of this import records table. So let's import, let's upload this one. So here we go. Here it is uploaded. So this, let me try to open that one. Quickly, I have made all the bookmarks. Okay, so it is going to load. So, okay. So here is my solution, and here is the flow. Okay. This flow will require 2 to 3 minutes to run. In the meanwhile, we can see the technical stuff. So let me quickly share my slides. Okay, so these components I use to build this automation: solution, table, Power Automate, model one app, and connection reference. And then I'm going to share the technical details from my environment. And okay, this is my account created by my IT department, and this is my solution. Okay, this is my solution, and all these components make this automation. So let's see them one by one. So first of all, I created this table which is responsible for saving these all Excel records. So here is the choice column, and here is the date time column, and here is the name column, and here is the whole number column. So I have these 4 columns in Excel sheet, and I have these 4 columns in my table. So for the visualization, I created one model driven app. Here is this application, here is a model driven application, and here I just add it to the navigation so that we can see the records in the more user-friendly environment. So this is my application, and after that I created these 3 Power Automates. So let's see one by one. So here is my first automate, which is responsible to convert the Excel sheet rows into the Dataverse rows. So I'm going to share what is done in this Power Automate. I use this trigger, and here, as you can see here, this is my document folder. So I need to log in to my personal account. Here, this is my IT department account. I use Power. In other words, you can say I use Power Apps from my IT department account, and I do not have OneDrive in this account. So I need personal account for that purpose. So that I created personal account for that purpose, and then I use this connection reference, and this is connecting to my personal account. And this is here you can see I'm referencing documents folder. So whenever a file uploaded to the documents folder, so this Power Automate is responsible to trigger, and then after that I need this file identifier in the below processes. So I save it to the variable, and then I need this file path, as after when this file is successfully parsed, then I need to move this file to this pictures folder. So for that purpose, I need this folder path. Okay, so this is the folder path. Okay, and this is the folder source folder path, and you can see this is the path of this documents folder. Okay, so here, okay, here my screen. So through this Power Automate component, I can parse my all records. So as you can see here, I need to identify the table. So in my Excel, there is a table. You can see here, there's a table 1. So every time I want to parse my Excel rows, so I need to define one table here. So here I'm using table 1. Okay. So I'm using table 1. So one thing here interesting is, if you need to parse date time column, you need to parse if you didn't select this one, so it will going to share some numbers. So I think I recommended it. You use this format, datetime format, so you do not worry about the conversion of this datetime column. Okay, so now then the next thing is you can apply to each component. Here I created one more Power Automate. So I think as a professional developer, once you need something, you think you need something common, so you need a function. Here this Power Automate is working as a function. So let me try to show the details of this Power Automate. Okay, so here's a Power Automate. So the thing is, in my table has this choice column, and we do not need this label in Power Automate. In Excel sheet we have these labels, but to set the value of this option set, we need its value. So I need I write this Power Automate to perform this action. As you can see here, I'm passing this label to this Power Automate. Here you can see, so it receive the type label here in the string format, and then I use this value to return to the parent Power Automate. So this value is right now, this is integer. Right now this is 0 here. So I use this switch statement. So when this Power Automate receive business from the parent Power Automate, then it will going to return value 1. Similarly for family, similarly for social. So let me try to share the details of this choice column. Solutions, import records. It is loading. Okay, and this is my table. These are columns, and this is the choice. So as you can see here, so business label returns 1 value. So all of these I configured in this Power Automate. Okay, so once it parses the value, and then after that it is going to return the response in this value variable, as you can see here, and I have this response in my parent Power Automate. Okay, so here I'm using this component add a new row. Through here you can see I can give the import records name here, and I give the table name. So the interesting thing is, let me try to show you from. So when you are configuring this Power Automate, you do not have this column here. So let me try to show you. So you do not have anything name here. So what you need to write something. Also add these details in my slide. So you need to use expression. So you need to write this expression items and then apply to each, and then the name of the column. So here I wrote all these formulas here. So when you first run, after your first run, here it is. After your first run, this will move in this format. So in the same manner, I use the same expression for the datetime format. I use the same expression for the whole number column. But here you can see the choice column will be filled using this with the response of this column. So as you can see here, let me try to show you from here. Okay, I think I need to do it more maximized so that all people can see clearly. Okay. When my Power Automate receives 0, it means the value, the label it is going to pass, it is not there in my option set column. So I'm going to save this value as a null. And this, if this is not the case, then I'm going to save the value returned by the Power Automate. So here it is. This is how I'm creating records. Okay. So the last step is I move this file from this document folder to pictures document. Once all the records has been passed, then the next thing is I need to move this document from this folder to the pictures folder. Okay, for that purpose, I'm also using the professional developer mindset, and I use this Power Automate as a function, and I'm going to share what the steps this Power Automate is doing. So okay, here I'm going to open my new solution screen. Here's my code record screen, and this is my cloud flow. This is the flow is responsible to move files. So there's something, there's one thing is interesting. So here you can see I'm sending the file and identifier of the source file and the destination folder path to this my Power Automate. And here you can see here it is taking some time. Okay, so here you can see here with the help of this body JSON schema, I'm receiving this from the Power Automate, and I use this variable to basically when we are working with the Excel sheets, so sometimes it is logged. So when we are trying to move this from the source path to the destination path, then sometimes we need the locking mechanism here. So whenever we need an error here, so I set that delay function here with this function. It is wait for the 1 minute, and then it is try again to move this folder until and unless it not move the folder, then it is in this do while loop, and once it is finished, it successfully finished its job, then I make this to false, and then this Power Order successfully finished. So let me try to show you the records converted. Okay, the file we uploaded. So as you can see here, all of these records are converted now, and we can see here. So here I can show you one record. Okay, so here you can see the name column is set to the name column, and the choice column is set to the choice column. So all are set very well. Here you can see. So the last thing is what we have done with this movement. So let me try to show you, and this file is still not moved. So let's see. So here you can see it is still running. It sometimes takes 12 minutes, sometimes takes 22 minutes. So after some time, it will move file from this folder to destination folder. So let's jump to the some errors which I faced during this development. So if I root apply to each instead of apply to each, so I received this error. So you may face when you are developing, when you are configuring this Power Automate, so you may face this error. So the resolution is you need to check the component of the apply to each, what the name you are using with this component. And I face this error when I am passing null to my automate, which is responsible to take the label of the option set and return the value. And then the next thing is I face this error when I give a value to my integer column, and then I face this error when I setting the string instead of date time. So I root all these errors which I face during my development. So I think that's all from my side.
Abdul, awesome. This is really, really great stuff for those that are looking to, the crowd goes wild. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. There's a lot to pack into this. You did a really fine job. Really, really appreciate it. So thank you. All right, for our next demo, hold on. I need to invoke git dash. Let me see. Git dash invoke Todd Klindt. Here we go. Yeah, data stream. All right, loaded Todd. Take it away.
I figured it was going to be get dash out. Like you're out of here.
No.
So great job. I feel horrible having to follow up Abdul and Matt because this is going to be very anticlimactic for the rest of you. But thanks for sticking around. So a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I was watching one of these, and David did his spiel where pitch an idea, and I was working on some cool stuff, and I pitched it, and the selection committee picked me, and it's an honor just to be nominated. I appreciate it. So I'm going to be talking about dynamic parameter validation in PowerShell. I promise you, I know what those words mean, and in the next 10 minutes, you'll know what those words mean in that order. So first, a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Todd Klindt. I've been a SharePoint MVP. Now I am officially an Office Services and Server MVP. All of the code and everything that I'm going to show you is in that URL, and that URL should bounce you to my GitHub repo. So if you want to zone out or go watch some funny cat videos or email your mom or whatever, feel free to go do that now. You can get all the code. It's already out there. GitHub was being kind of fussy this morning, so I'm not sure if that's all figured out, but it's all there. And if you have any questions or anything, you can hit me up at that email address, and I will reply to you. I promise. Okay, so I do a lot of presentations, so I'm just used to having an agenda slide. The first thing we're going to talk about is what is this? Why do we care? The next thing I'm going to talk about is how I'm going to do this cool thing. And then the last bit is the demo, the part you're all here for, the oh, cool part. Okay. So what and why? I've been doing PowerShell since 2009 when Microsoft told us that it was going to be the admin interface for SharePoint 2010. And when that happened, I knew I wasn't smart enough for PowerShell, so I started following a bunch of PowerShell folks. And one of the early PowerShell MVPs was a guy named Don Jones. And he said many sage bits of wisdom. One of the many that stuck with me was when you're writing PowerShell, you should try to be the tool maker, not the tool user. So, of course, this depends on where you're at in your PowerShell journey and all that. But that's where I am. I try to write all of my PowerShell with the intention that somebody else would be able to use it, like my mom would be able to use it. And so I've taken a number of steps over the years to do that. One of them that I do is I use a thing called validate set. And validate set is an attribute for a parameter. And so I write all of my PowerShell. I don't have, PS1 files and snippets. I write them as modules and functions and all that. So validate set is an attribute you can set on a parameter that gives a set of values for that. So if it's things like, who's your favorite kid, you could put your kids' names in there. That does two things. That keeps the person who's running your code, the tool user, from putting in a bad value. And it also allows them to tab through. If they don't want to type everything out, they can just hit tab. So I've been using that forever. It makes your stuff easier for the end user to use. It reduces bad data getting into wherever you're going. And I'll show in a minute how that's comes up in places you wouldn't think it would. And it makes you a better coder. Like, it makes you think through these things. So been using validate set for a while, but one downside that validate set has is not very flexible. In that it's a static set of strings inside of your code. And where this came up and what I was working on a couple of months ago when I submitted this was I've got a customer who is a law firm, and we've been writing some management tools for them in SharePoint Online. And one of the things that I added was like a case or matter auditing list, so we could see when a matter had been created and things like that. It was great. Everybody loved it, carried off on people's shoulders. And then as we implemented this, they started coming up with more ideas, more actions that they wanted to audit. So this was getting used by me, by them. It was being consumed by an Azure function. So my module was getting uploaded to Azure. So I was using validate set and adding these actions. And every time we added a new action that we wanted to audit, then I would have to go in and edit my code and then push it out. And then the scariest part was pushing it up to the Azure function. Because if you've used Azure functions, when you push code up there, there's no version control or anything like that. It just wipes everything out. So if you're a terrible coder like I am and you make a mistake, you can't just roll it back. So going in and changing the code just to add another action to that validate set was pretty scary. So I had to find another way. How did I find this solution? I know you're all asking, you're on the edges of your seats. For those of you who don't have cool standing desks. The way that I got around this was a thing called validate script, which is a lesser known sibling or cousin to validate set. So now instead of having a static set of values, now you can put a script and any magic behind that. Okay, so I've got like 15 minutes worth of demos and like 8 minutes to do them in. So let's jump right into that. Okay, so PowerPoint, I'm done with you for a bit. Okay, so I've got this list. Of course, I'm not going to show you my actual customers list because they would be very angry with that. So this is a list, and it's got a list of cars and their colors. And if we look at how I defined this list, I've got a color column, and it has 3 colors, black, blue, and red. You can have any color car as long as it's black, blue, or red, and that comes up as a choice. And importantly, allow fill-in choices, allow people to put in their own colors. I've got that set to no. This is called foreshadowing. We're going to come back to this. All right, so I've got this list with cars and colors, and I want to use some PowerShell to add cars and colors. Okay, so I've got a PowerShell prompt. This is all using the PnP, all the code that I've got. So, and I'm also going to upload this transcript so that you can follow along with the things that I do. So I will upload this to GitHub as soon as I can. So we've seen the list. I need to connect to my tenant. So like all of the PnP commandlets, they always assume you're connected, get PnP list, get PnP tenant site. So I write all of my stuff the same way. So I'm going to connect to my site. I'm going to import my module, and this is the module I'm going to show you all in a minute. And let's see what happens. So I've got this commandlet that I've written, this function, that adds cars. So I added my Trans Am, it's black. I go in here, I refresh my list. There it is, black Trans Am. Yay, crowd goes wild. Let me zoom that in a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But what happens if I want to add a yellow car. I want to add a yellow Tesla. Now, remember, yellow is not one of my colors, and I've got fill-in values are not allowed in SharePoint. But if you go into the API, you can add invalid options. So I'm able to add this yellow Tesla. Boo, that's horrible. So that's one of the reasons why we would want to use validate set. So let's look at the code I used for this. So this is the before picture. I just have 2 parameters, car name, color. That's the list name that we're in. I just make a variable there. I splat it in. Nothing exciting. Okay, so that didn't work. So what do I do? So now I add this validate set. So this line is the only difference between this and the previous one. And I've just added the allowed colors. So it's all the same things that I had in SharePoint. So this is before 2. So let's look at this one. So now let's add that cursed yellow Tesla with our before 2. And I can't because it can't validate the color. Yay, PowerShell saves the day. But let's make sure we can still add legitimate colors. Yep, we can. We can still add the blue one. I refresh the page. There's the blue Tesla. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's not a feature or it's not a bug. It's a feature. Okay, but now what happens when I add another color? So let's say I get a new Tesla, and it's not just blue. It's fancy blue. So this is code that added that color to our list. I did that somewhat to get it done quickly, more just to show off the cool things I can do in PowerShell. So now I have fancy blue there. Yay. So now using my before 2, I'm going to try to add a fancy blue Tesla, and I can't. So that's the problem that I'm trying to solve. So I've got this other thing. So now we've got after. So now this is where it's fixed. So now instead of having validate set, I have validate script. And what validate script does is it runs code like any good script does. It connects to the site. It goes out to that field, that list, the field, and it pulls the choices. And then, so now as I add more colors, it's pulling that dynamically when I run this commandlet. So let's go out to PowerShell. So we'll call this after. And it worked. So, and that was with me not having any code in there. And so let's see what happens if I add another color, right? I could have canned all that. So I'm going to add green. Okay, so now I've got a green color. So now let's try to add like a green Honda. And I can do it, that same commandlet without any extra code. Okay, so one downside that I noticed though, so I was very excited, ready to do the old mission accomplished deal. I lost my ability to do tab completion when I went from validate script to validate set. So I had to go back into my code and I did some searching on this and I had to add, and we're running out of time, so I won't get to go through it all, this argument completer. And so argument completer gives me my tab validation. And you can see as I highlight this, like it's all the same code that's in my validate script, which kind of stinks because then as I tweak it, I have to tweak it twice. But now it works. So now if I do add car after and I do color, I can tab. Oh, that's after. So yeah, so if I do after, if you see this, that doesn't work. So now if I do after 2, now as I tab, it goes through.
You're all good.
One thing to keep in mind as I did this is you'll see this has a space in it. When I first did this, I didn't have this extra set of quotes in here. And so it would throw the value in, but it would be fancy space blue without the quotes. So PowerShell would think it was 2 words. Okay, so that is kind of the whole thing. There's a couple of other, like that's a pretty limited example, but you can use it for anything that you can code. So for instance, one of the things that I did was when I'm getting lists. So now I've got my own commandlet now, and if I'm trying to get a list in SharePoint, I can tab through that. Or if I want to get a site name, like if I want to use get PnP site, anything that you can code, you can put in here. It can be the value from a text file. It can be, something from Azure or the graph. It can be from any other REST endpoint. The sky is really the limit for that. So the final thing that I wanted to show was I got all this done. I got my demo done. I got it all done. I shipped it off to the customer. Everybody loved it. It was great. And then I did a fun thing. I went out to ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, I need this. And I explained all of the stuff that I wanted to do. And with some tweaking, I had to tweak it a little bit, but it spit out the exact same code, but it did one thing very differently. So that's what this is. This is the ChatGPT version. Instead of putting all that yucky code in for the validate script and the argument completer, it wrote a function to do all that and then just called that function. So now anytime you need to tweak the code, you want to add something, you change the function instead of having to change it in two places. So that was really brilliant. And so that's something that I've done a lot lately in the last couple of months is I've written a lot of code with ChatGPT. Is anybody interested in seeing how I use AI to write PowerShell? If that's something you're all interested in, I think the folks here have graciously allowed me to come back on June 22nd and show that exact thing. So show how I use ChatGPT to write all of this. From the chat room, it went wild. There was gasping, but no flabbergasting. So that's it. Again, all the code's out there. I got one final slide just to take y'all home.
Awesome stuff, Todd. Thank you so much. And yes, we have Todd scheduled for that. How to use GPT for PowerShell. I asked it the other day. I got some PowerShell questions. Can you help answer it? It said, see Todd Klindt. So there you go. He's the man. All right, let me share my screen here and wrap this call up, everyone. Thank you to our amazing presenters today, Matt, Abdul, and Todd. You all rock. We really appreciate everything that you bring to the community. You may all have questions. No doubt you want to collaborate and communicate with our presenters today. We got you covered. Community call conversations. This is the opportunity to use the Power Apps forums to converse and collaborate with our amazing presenters today. So if you have additional questions, let them know. You can use these QR codes. You can use the AKA links. I will put them in the chat after the call. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out to them. Even just let them know you appreciated their demo. That is always more than welcome too. Everybody loves a shout out, everybody. So definitely let them know they did a great job. We appreciate all they've done, and you too could also be presenting. We would love to get your feedback on these calls as well. If you could please give us your feedback, we would really appreciate it. This helps ensure that we can provide our management here at Microsoft with the understanding that these provide value to you all in the community, and you appreciate and find them valuable and useful. So please go to that link, ak.ms/community/call/feedback. It is also in the chat for you, and let us know how things are going. Recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community YouTube channel. If you get the link that says it's ready for download in the chat and you're not a Microsoft employee, it'll just end to tears and sadness. So don't try to download it. Definitely go to ak.ms/community/videos, subscribe, and you will absolutely get notified when the video is dropped, and you will be able to watch it immediately. You can also follow us on Twitter for updates at M365PNP or see the latest updates in the LinkedIn at aka.ms/community/li. Those will also be alerted as soon as that video is available, and also future demos as well. The next M365 Power Platform biweekly call 2 weeks from today, May 25th. Next Viva Connection SharePoint Framework next week, same bat time, same bat channel, May 18th, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Definitely go get those invites added to your calendar at ak.ms/community/calls. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, our presenters. Thank you for being amazing contributors to this community. We would not have it without you. So we really appreciate everything you're doing. Have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everybody.